Welcome to the Gentleman's Guide to Gaming. That's right, not just the world below. As you may have been able to see from the video title, we're going to be covering a few topics in this video, and hopefully they will be ones of interest to you, the viewer. Most of you are going to be familiar with my work through Vampire the Masquerade or The Gentleman's Guide to Vampires. You will have probably either read a book that I've contributed to if you're a fan of Vampire, or you may have even got into Vampire through my videos on that subject. And what I wanted to talk about a little is some of what I've really enjoyed working on for Vampire, how it's informed the way I've worked on games like The World Below, maybe even convincing some of you to back The World Below. So, firstly, on that subject, as of time of recording, and so this may well change, as of time of recording, we're about $2,000 off of funding The World Below, and I don't mind saying that is quite something. I mean, it's really remarkable, and the reason it is because we're still in our first week, and this is the thing I think a lot of people don't consider when gauging the success or not of a campaign. This is a brand new game. You know, there aren't many people who know about it. It's a brand new idea. There are so many RPG companies that deal primarily in licenses. I mean, at Onyx Path, we have dealt heavily with the World of Darkness, with Exalted, with Legend Lore, with Dystopia Rising. We've dealt with licenses. It is always a gamble, a huge gamble, to go out there and try and generate interest for a brand new game. Especially when I think there's a lot of people who look at Onyx Path and think immediately horror, or think World of Darkness, or Chronicles of Darkness, or something of that ilk. And so then we try and launch a game that's subterranean fantasy, a game where you excavate, you explore, you slay monsters, you build bases. There's a whole realm building system in this game. There's a whole generational play system in this game. There's so much innovative material in this game, and the art, I mean, if you're listening to this on the podcast, you can't see it, but I'm going to put some art up near me while I'm talking. You can see it on the back of kit. It may be some of the most striking art I have ever seen in an RPG, and I know that's a subjective taste. I know it will sound utterly biased, but I think you can agree. This is some vivid beauty. It's experimental, it's interesting, and of course we've also utilised the services, the talents of John Cobb from Wraith the Oblivion, as that is one of my favourite. He is one of my favourite artists in the RPG industry, so it was a big coup to be able to get some of his work in this book. Now, I say all of this because, as I mentioned, we're about $2,000 off funding, and you can, and I hope that you consider supporting this, because if you like my work on the World of Darkness, if you like The Gentleman's Guide to Vampires, you will be able to pick up all of that love in The World Below. The ideas I've come up with for horror, the ideas I've come up with for making politics palatable in role-playing games and interesting, the idea of internal, so personal, and existential horror, it all exists in The World Below. So much of my work on World of Darkness has gone on to influence this one, and goes back to that word again, gamble. I know people are going to pick up World of Darkness books, whether I work on them or not. And seeing the amount of support The World Below has generated as a brand new game is genuinely heartening, thrilling, a little stunning. We don't know whether these games will succeed when we launch the crowdfunding campaign. We just don't. There's no way of knowing. And this one appears to be within a breath of doing so. So if you haven't considered it, please consider it now. The link to do so will be in the description for this video or podcast if you're listening. Now, I was talking about the World of Darkness at the start of this video because one of the things I found, I mean, I've worked on Vampire and the World of Darkness more broadly for a long time now, I guess relatively speaking, to my time in the RPG industry. And unlike The World Below, it's a license, which means you have to get your work approved. There are people at Onyx Path who approve of my work or not, but there's more, shall we say, hoops that you have to jump through on the World of Darkness. And that isn't unfair. Ultimately, the World of Darkness is the property of Paradox Interactive. And what that means is they get the final say. And so I would put a lot of my ideas into a World of Darkness book, expecting, and quite rightly so, that some of those ideas would be rejected, or they would be changed, they would be criticised. Sometimes, to my feelings, it would feel these criticisms are unfair. Sometimes I won't get hired. And I haven't been hired on Vampire the Masquerade for some time. And that's because they have specific ideas in mind for what they want for Vampire the Masquerade or the other World of Darkness games. Does that hurt? Does it make me think, well, how dare you? I've given so much. It makes me go a bit Norman Osborn. Think of everything I've sacrificed. Does it hurt my ego? I guess the fact that I'm talking about it means it must do on some level. It must make me think, why am I not the person working on this vampire book or that vampire book or on Hunt of the Reckoning or Werewolf the Apocalypse or whatever else is coming up? But I have tried, and I think I've done all right at it, turning that around and saying, okay, if I'm not working on the World of Darkness, I will work on games I want to work on, where I have creative freedom to work on them. And that seems to be working out quite well. I don't know whether, and I apologise for any juddering on this video, my camera is in its death knell, I think. Yeah, it seems like all the time I spent working on the World of Darkness has prepared me for working on a game like The World Below. When I think of all the research I used to do, reading up on the history of the Giovanni and the Cappadocians, and reading from cover to cover all the Dark Ages books and all the Masquerade books and all the Werewolf books and every other damn book, that time isn't wasted. For one thing, I've made a lasting imprint on the World of Darkness, Chicago by Night, Cults of the Blood Gods, all of their supplements, and writing all of the clans up to the companion for V5, and of course Beckett's Jihad Diary. So much. I've genuinely written more than my share of the World of Darkness at this point. And that has all been practice for when I get to create my own games. And of course I got to do that with They Came From, Beneath the Sea, Beyond the Grave, and all the others. Got to do it with Trinity Continuum Aether. Games outside of Onyx Path as well, I've been able to do that. But mostly, and I can see it in its DNA, it running through its veins. So much of the World of Darkness, my experience in the World of Darkness, has ended up in the World Below. So why do I tell you this? Well, partly because it's just ruminations. It's just things going through my head. But also because I feel like if you do enjoy my videos, if you've enjoyed The Gentleman's Guide to Vampires, if you've liked my work on the World of Darkness, I think you will like the World Below. In fact, I'm fairly certain you will. You shouldn't write it off as just a fantasy game, because it is definitely not that. There is a lot more to it. Yes, it has an OSR level of lethality. That's intentional. Yes, it harkens back to ancient dungeon crawls. Yep. But there are settlements with interesting characters and interesting political schisms and fractions and troubles taking place in this game. That will seem reminiscent to you. There are various sort of cursed lineages and various powers that will probably evoke some of what you remember from the World of Darkness. I think I'm confident that there's a lot to love in the World Below. And the fact that you can back it, yeah, you can get your PDF or you can get your print on demand, you can get your traditional print, you can get your deluxe print, you can get your game played with Ed Greenwood, for heaven's sake. You can do all of these things. That's one level. But at its simplest, just backing the campaign, allowing you to read the manuscript which is already written, is, I think, huge, because I am getting to see people respond positively to a game myself and the rest of the creative team have put so much effort into. Really, a huge amount of effort. And I think it has paid off. So, yeah. I mentioned Vampire the Masquerade in the title, and it isn't just as an excuse to get you to hear me talking about the world below, because Vampire has been a huge influence on my life, not just role-playing or professional. I spent so much time with those vampire books. It's obscene, almost, what happened. I am incredibly grateful for being able to spend all that time with Vampire, with World of Darkness. But I'm even more grateful for how Vampire has turned me into the author, into the developer that I am now, where I can point you to a link below where I'm talking right now, and maybe because you enjoy all those things I've spoken about, all the antediluvians, all the disciplines, all the sects, all the clan politicking and mysteries, you've enjoyed all of that, then you will find all of that and more in a game that I've been able to work on and not have to play around in someone else's playground, So please do check it out. If you love my work on Vampire, even if you like it, please check it out. I would love your support. And what's more, if you have any questions at all, please do post them in the comments or on the Backer Kit or on the Onyx Path Discord, because I want to talk about this game. If people want to ask me questions about it, I do not need to check with anyone else about whether I can. This is a game I can tell you all about. If there's anything, if you are on the fence, if there's something stopping you from backing because you don't have an answer to a question you have, ask me that question. Maybe I will convince you. But all that said, I want to thank you so much for listening, for watching, for supporting me all this time. It's been a long journey. Those Vampire videos from 2009, 2010, and wow, we're 13 years later and we've got games like The World Below coming out and more beyond that. If we can get to funding in the first week of this crowdfunding campaign, I will be delighted. So thank you so much for your constant support, and I hope to see you over on that Backer Kit campaign.